Back in March, I published my review of the Tiger 900 Rally Pro. I spent a couple of weeks getting to know this bike and overall I was really impressed. The bike arrived to me sporting road tyres, just as it would arrive to you had you bought it new. This meant that the Rally Pro handled brilliantly on the black stuff, but left me unable to answer the most popular question. How does the Tiger 900 handle off-road in the hands of a normal person? With so much of the ad campaign for this bike shot off-road and a name like the Rally Pro, I was a bit frustrated that I couldn't get this bike mucky. However, I was recently invited to spend a day at the Triumph Adventure Experience, where I got the chance to discover just what this bike is capable of. Boy, was I impressed. We started the day with a half-hour road ride from the HQ to the compound. At the HQ, we were introduced to our bikes and it became clear that they were no show ponies, each carrying its own battle scars. Apart from the low seats, extra protection and Metzler Karoo tyres, these bikes were all bog standard. The Karoos did affect the road manners a little bit, but I wouldn't say it was too great of a compromise. Arriving at the compound, we were split up into two groups, those with no off-road experience and those who have ridden off-road before. I have extensive on-road riding experience, a little bit of time spent riding bigger bikes off-road. I've owned a DRZ for the last year and been riding that on the green lanes, and I've also done a couple of one-day off-road skills courses before as well. I'm not a complete novice by any stretch, but I'm nothing special on two wheels. I wouldn't consider myself gifted in any way. I'm just a normal person that has an unhealthy obsession with bikes. Our instructor Matthew was keen to stress that this was not your typical off-road skills course. He wanted us to learn a couple of new things and didn't want to teach us to suck eggs. But most importantly, he wanted to keep the whole group, who had a widely differing skill set, engaged and entertained while allowing us to stretch the legs on the Tiger. We started the morning with some fun exercises, slaloming by weighting the pegs, side saddle mounts and dismounts, a few light obstacles and hills. As in my road review, I found the Tiger to be weightless when in motion, but slightly cumbersome when turning slowly or tightly. As the day went on, I noticed this less and less, especially as my counterbalancing and confidence improved. I did find that the size of the bike made it more difficult for me to correctly position my body in comparison to a smaller bike, but that's definitely just a case of adapting my riding style to suit the machine. We intersected the drills with short loops or blasts around the compound. It was a 30-degree day, so anytime we got the chance to get up to speed was a welcome relief for the wind that it provided. The engine doesn't feel super torquey, but the power is so linear and instant that you can work around it. I love how long the gears are, and that triple engine really has something to offer throughout the whole rev range. The quick shifter is a nice touch on-road, but off-road it really is useful. Switching into Off-Road Pro made all the difference. I found the throttle and traction control in the off-road mode a little bit too intrusive, especially coming from a DRZ which has no electronic input at all. The Tiger doesn't really surprise too much. It's pretty predictable and the feedback is good enough to allow you to manage the throttle and brake yourself without much issue. After a couple of laps around the site, we dialed in our slow control, maneuvering the bikes around some tight log formations, which the instructors moved ever closer together, forcing us to tighten up our turns. I found this to be one of the hardest exercises on this bike due to the size, weight, and my inexperience riding big bikes in this situation. On the road, I can track stand my street triple, and off-road, I have no problem tightly maneuvering the DRZ, but it took me a little while just to lock in the counterbalance and approach angles on the Tiger. Approach angles and thinking ahead became more and more important, as it's much harder to make adjustments mid-corner when dealing with this bike. When you're so aware that the bike is heavy and the room for error is shrinking, it's all too easy to be caught out looking down, and before you know it, the bike's about to topple over. Following the slow turns, we took another ride and then drilled some skid turns, which was great fun and really showed the control offered by the Rally Pro. It takes a fair bit of confidence to drift a 200 kilogram plus motorcycle, but the bike made it surprisingly easy and effortless. The high revving and smooth engine allows for great power slide control. This of course had everyone kicking up huge clouds of dust all day long. We tried our hand at turning the bike 180 degrees by spinning the rear wheel, and then doing some 180-degree box turns by skidding the rear wheel in and power sliding out. I didn't quite get this one down. Maybe with a few more runs and a little bit less heat, I'll get there, but it takes quite a lot of confidence and strength to be able to throw the bike into the turn. After this, we rode the bike through some rutted sections. Again, it felt pretty light and controllable. It's just fighting the weight when it starts to go wrong and picking the bike up, which is an issue. We ended the day with a few more laps around the compound and some awesome hill climbs. I was truly impressed by the Rally Pro. I was impressed on road, but I feel that this is where it really shines and defines itself as an outstanding machine. The suspension setup was way too soft, but luckily it's fully adjustable. The power is relentless but manageable. It's always on tap, but not too twitchy. The stand-up riding position is very upright, but it is comfortable and pretty ergonomic once you get used to positioning yourself to manage the extra size and weight of the bike. It was so nice working with modern brakes that give you full control of the motorcycle, allowing you to perfectly balance between slowing the bike down gently or instantly locking up the rear wheel. Overall, this bike is extremely well balanced, if just a touch top heavy at the front. As I mentioned earlier though, you don't really notice it when in motion, it's only at those oh shit moments. It's not as forgiving as a smaller bike, and it's definitely more strenuous to throw it around, but I'm so pleased to say that in the hands of a normal person, the Triumph Tiger 900 Rally Pro is insanely capable and will even make you look like you know what you're doing every now and again. Thank you so much to Triumph UK for inviting me to take part in the Triumph Adventure experience. I had an absolutely brilliant time. If you fancy a day learning some new skills or a trip through the incredibly beautiful Welsh countryside on a new Tiger or Scrambler, make sure you look them up. The tuition that we received throughout the day from Matt and Jared was absolutely top notch, and I learned so much, so a massive thank you to them. If you have any questions about my experience riding the Tiger 900 off-road, please drop a comment below and I'll do my best to get back to you. And if you'd like to help fund the next video, click the link in the description to buy me a tank of gas. Thanks a lot, see you next time.